All right, welcome back to Velshi and Ruhle. A year ago, Republicans' signature $1.5 trillion tax cut went into effect. It promised job creation, economic growth, and trickle-down pay increases.
Now, a new report shows the massive and costly tax overhaul had no major impact on business spending. A new poll by the National Association of Business and Economics found that 84% of business leaders polled say they have not changed their hiring or investment plans. This is really important, that despite the fact that the corporate tax rate was slashed from 35 to 21%, they didn't change anything. Now, it's important to note, many presidents, not just President Trump, said we need to repatriate those corporate dollars that are overseas. The tax rate doesn't necessarily make sense. So President Trump wasn't unique in that. So CEOs would say the tax rate was out of whack. This did make us more competitive.
But that's not how they sold it. The fact is they sold it on trickle down. Okay, Kevin Hassett came and said it would give you $4,000 per household and that it would create all this crazy hiring and all that. They sold it on that basis. So the point, I'm not even sure we disagree on any of this, right? They wanted to repatriate money. They sold it to Americans saying it was going to.
No, Obama wanted to repatriate. I can't get a word out. Obama also wanted to repatriate all those corporate dollars because it didn't make sense. He got blocked.
Joining us is James Pethokoukis. He's an economic policy analyst at the American Enterprise Institute. James, let me just start with you, because you and I haven't talked about this. I don't actually know how you look at that tax cut. I guess there's two ways to look at it. One is, in and of itself, was it good for business and share prices? Absolutely it was. So for those Americans invested in the stock market, that definitely helped goose the thing. But a year ago, Republican after Republican was on our air telling us how great this was going to be for wages and increases. I'm not sure. I think the jury's out. In fact, the jury doesn't seem to be out. The jury seems to be back and saying that didn't work.
Listen, this is how the tax cuts were supposed to work, according to economists, not from politicians or even economists working for politicians, most economists. The way they're supposed to work is by making future investments more profitable. Therefore, companies would want to make those investments. Thereby, you would make your workers more productive, and more productive workers get higher wages, and you get higher economic growth. That is the mechanism, had not repatriations. That's something politicians talked about, various presidents. That is not how it was supposed to work. Now, what I just described to you, Paul Krugman would agree with this. He may not agree with the magnitude of the impact, but he would agree with the mechanism. So you're right. They were sold poorly. They were sold like it was going to be like Harry Potter, Leviosa. The economy was going to go up. The reality is it's more like what the Muggle economists would predict, that it should help over time. And at the same time, higher interest rates and the trade war not helping things.
Okay, but this is the gripe. People are saying, well, wait a minute. Weren't companies supposed to pay higher wages and hire people? I mean, they got this gift of the tax cut.
Well, the politician said that. I got that.
When you get a tax cut, there's no mechanism that the government can use to force companies to change their business plans. And us just coming home from Davos, when you talk to CEOs right now, call it what you will, they're there optimizing and automating their business, which is what they are supposed to do. And they're not looking to hire people that they don't need.
Yeah, the mechanism is not the government forcing. The mechanism is that those investments are more profitable, and they will invest in more. They will they can buy other companies, or they can invest in equipment, and that equipment makes people more productive. That is a non-controversial thing. The problem is saying that what's going to happen in the next 15 minutes, and workers are going to get higher wages, and the economy is going to grow 6%. That is the fantasy part of it. All those promises could still work.
Does it make workers more productive, or does it make the company more productive if you invest in technology?
It's the same thing. When workers have more equipment, they become more productive.
And then the
reason it seems like these tax cuts aren't working, well, I think the last 100 years has shown actually you need more workers.
So
that's not the issue. I would not worry. That's not my concern.
Right. What is your concern?
My concern is that you had these tax cuts which are not paid for, so you have higher interest rates. They're more like stimulus, which we didn't need. Increase in interest rates and makes the Fed raise interest rates faster, and you have a trade war at the same time swamping the impact. And listen, it is a little weird, though. It is a little weird for Democrats to be making the deficit argument when last I saw, the hot take new Democratic argument is this modern monetary theory that deficits don't really matter. So, I mean, you can't sort of have it both ways. But it would have been much better had this tax cut been paid for.
The three of us would agree that the only people, Democrats may say it, and I disagree with it, that deficits don't matter, but actually the only people increasing deficits in recent years have been Republicans by a lot.
Deficit's gone up by a whole lot, and Republicans don't care much about it. I think Howard Schultz may care about it. It's him
but hold
and
on.
Maybe a couple guys here, and no one else cares about it.
Republicans don't care about it at this moment. But historically speaking,
no, it's not.
No, you're wrong.
It's just not.
They've cared about it in the past.
They haven't.
James,
deficits go up under Republicans more than they go up under Democrats. That's an empirical fact. We should just stop reciting this nonsense on TVs that Republicans care about deficits. They don't. They run up deficits.
I think some
then
do.
they cut social programs.
What do you think, James?
Who? Give me one. Nobody objected to a sequester that didn't have government spending.
Listen, I think generally with Republicans in the past, and I've talked about things like Medicare, I think there are plenty of Republicans of good faith who see long term you need to fix that problem. But unfortunately, you've also had the idea that all the tax cuts are going to pay for themselves, glommed on top of it, and no one looks particularly serious. Certainly, no one is acting like they care, and ultimately, you have to look how people act, not the words.
Yeah, well, I can agree with that, but David Stockman from the Reagan administration says we didn't really care about it then. Deficits were just an excuse to cut social programs, which ends up with smaller government. So maybe you go around it by backwards. You raise deficits as an excuse to cut social programs, but the fact is, I'm not sure people care all that much about deficits. Be a great discussion to have, because when deficits give you a good return on your investment, James, would you agree that they can be useful in a low-interest environment? You go into deficit financing because you really are rebuilding fantastic infrastructure, and you're getting higher taxes.
It's what you spend the money. It's what you're spending. It's what you're spending the money on. I think people and politicians will care when markets care, and right now markets don't care either.
Yeah. I don't know what's going to get people to care about this. Hey, MSNBC fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down there, and click on any of the videos here to watch the latest interviews and highlights. You can get more MSNBC for free every day with our newsletters. Just visit msnbc.com/newsletters to sign up now.